All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sydney O'Connor, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the National Cancer Institute. So I'm very fortunate today to have the opportunity to interview Dr. Jaclyn Maher. Dr. Maher is an assistant professor in the Department of Kinesiology at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and the director of the Physical Activity and Lifetime Wellness Lab. Dr. Maher, can you briefly tell us about your current position at UNCG and give us just a snapshot of what a typical day or week is like for you, especially in terms of the balance between research, teaching, and service?
Okay, sure. And first, let me just say thanks for having me, Sydney. It was great to hear from you and get to talk to you today. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. But so, in terms of what I do at UNCG, so first, let me just give you a little bit of background. I'm in my third year on the tenure track at UNCG, and UNCG is an R2 university. So, um, not quite as research intensive as an R1, and we are a very student sort of centered and student focused university. So, my responsibilities, especially being sort of early on the tenure track, are very much focused on research and teaching. And so that's sort of what you see in the distribution of my workload too. I spend about 45% of my time on research and another 45% on teaching, and then the rest related to service. And that service is really primarily what I sort of choose to do with it in a professional or sort of service to the profession, as opposed to service that's sort of assigned to me at the university, school, or department level. And earlier when I was in my first and second years of the tenure track, I had more emphasis on research to help get my lab started. So I had course releases in my first 2 years that allowed me to do that. But now in my third year, what my typical day looks like is um, there's generally some teaching that goes on every day during the week. I teach two courses. One is each semester, one is an undergraduate course and one is a graduate course. And then I also, so I'm prepping for those courses, although now that I'm in my third year, it's a little bit easier, a little bit less prep. Although now with COVID-19 and the transition online, I'm spending much more time sort of prepping my courses because it's now in a different format, and assignments have changed and things like that. But then um, the rest of the time is primarily devoted to research, which is nice. But along with that research comes lots of like meetings related to research. So it's not all time that you're actually spending sort of devoted on the science. Yeah, also spend a lot of time related to like the administrative aspects of research, which is something that I didn't expect, which I think maybe we'll talk
Mm,
about in a little bit. But
yeah.
um, so we have those sort of responsibilities, and then I also do have advising responsibilities too, because UNCG is more of a teaching centered university. So I currently advise about 15 students, which is small relative to other faculty in our department. But since I'm a newer faculty member, I advise less students. So um, that's sort of how I spend my time during the week. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you've touched upon a couple of different themes in terms of managing a research group and administrative duties that come along with research, as well as mentoring other, students at different levels. I want to kind of transition to how you navigated the process of going from being a postdoc to being a faculty member. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you began your new position as an assistant professor?
I think that, in a postdoc, you're primarily focused on strengthening your CV and resume from like the research perspective. So getting lots of experience grant writing and publishing and things like that, and potentially running your own studies, which is all great. But there are lots of other things that you're required to do as a faculty member that really you probably haven't had training before. And so lots of the administrative sort of components and just managing a lab and managing a whole group of people, that is definitely a challenge. So in my lab, I currently have one PhD student that works with us. We'll be having another graduate student join next year. And usually every semester we have in our lab about 2 to 5 undergraduate students that are completing independent studies to get involved in research. So that's just a lot of people to like manage and direct. And so I think that was one of the challenges for me as I was starting out and getting my lab set up, is just learning how to more effectively manage people, and then also handling all of the administration that comes with hiring or having graduate students, hiring people related to grants, whether that's students or part-time employees, um, the process that you have to go through to buy equipment in your lab, and how there are certain vendors that you have to buy from, or if you don't buy from those vendors, then you have to put out bids. And my experience might be a little bit different than other people at other universities, because UNCG is a state, a public institution where we get state funding. And so part of the process for how we spend our money is might be different, or we might have like additional hurdles to jump through because of that. So that just wasn't something that I had ever really experienced before. And so I think all of those things were they're challenges basically, but I think that with time you're able to sort of get used to them and be able to expect when things are going to take some time to process, or hiring new employees or things like that. But it's still something that it eats up like a surprising amount of your time, I think, the
Mm,
administrative part.
okay. And is there anything, if you could go back in time to your postdoctoral self, is there any advice that you would give yourself to kind of prepare better, or, to be able to prepare for some of these challenges or surprises that you did encounter as a new faculty member?
I think that when anyone's starting out as a new faculty, there's always going to be challenges, no matter sort of where you are or what your responsibilities are. If the load is more research heavy, you'll face some of those like administrative challenges with starting your lab. But if you're in a more teaching focused position, there'll be other barriers too, or other challenges that might um, get in the way, or sort of slow your progress. And so one of the things that I would just say that's really important is when you're interviewing for faculty positions or whatever the position is that you're applying to, that um, especially like I feel like when I was on the job market, it was sort of, and I feel like this is always the case, there's many more applicants than there are positions, right? And so it's very competitive. And so by the time you get to an on-campus interview, there's sort of this like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to be here kind of feeling like, and I really hope that I get this job. But one of the things that I think is important to remember, and since I've had this position and be able to reflect on the hiring process and also being involved in the hiring process of new faculty at our university, is that just as much as we're interviewing you and we're sort of figuring out if you're the right fit for our university, equally as much you should sort of be thinking about, is this the right fit for me? And am I going to have the resources available to me at this institution or this workplace to be successful? And so that's one of the things that I would really emphasize as a way to sort of preempt some of those like barriers or surprises, things that might get in the way, is, am I going to be at a place that has the resources to help me to overcome those barriers? Because no matter where I am, there are going to be things that are going to get in the way. So I want to be at an institution that is going to be able to help me thrive despite of those things, and to be able to overcome the barriers or obstacles or challenges that I'm facing. So I would say that that's one thing that is really important as you're finding your next steps, right? Making sure that it's a next step that's going to help, basically have the resources in place to help you grow and be successful. So that's one thing that I would say, looking back on my transition from postdoc to university, I feel like I was lucky to find a place like that, even though I didn't really know that I should have been looking for that at the time necessarily.
Right, right. Great. One of the biggest challenges facing postdocs is whether to pursue an academic career path or to contemplate an alternative path in either industry, government, or another area. I'm curious, were you always committed to staying in the academic world? And if so, what drew you to it? If not, what were kind of the biggest challenges you grappled with in choosing to pursue the academic career path?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I did my graduate studies, and actually my undergraduate studies too, all at Penn State in the kinesiology department there, which is very research focused institution and graduate program. And so I sort of always thought that I would stay in academia, just because I think that that's really the culture sort of in that program. And that's just where lots of my peers were ending up after they left Penn State. And so I did think I wanted to go to a more teaching oriented university, where the teaching load was higher and the research expectations were lower. And I think part of the reason why I thought I wanted to go to an institution like that is because there's a lot of pressure around grant funding and publishing and things like that in academia. And I thought I really didn't want that, in my future. And so, but then when I started doing my dissertation work, I really enjoyed being in charge of my own study and applying for funding to help fund that study, and just all of the aspects that are involved in research. And I thought, well, if I go to a teaching oriented school, there really won't be much time or support for me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sort of shifted for me looking for more research oriented positions. And then I ended up doing a postdoc at the University of Southern California to help sort of build those research skills more, and position me for that. But I never really thought much about going into anything else besides academia, like government or industry. But now that I am in academia and sort of know more about the, collaborate with people and have interactions with people outside of academia, I can definitely see the appeal of those kinds of domains in terms of the behavioral sciences. But yeah, I pretty much always thought that I would be in academia. I just sort of switched from where the position in academia where I wanted my time and energy to focus more towards, or having at least an equal balance between teaching and research.
Great. Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more question. And I want to talk a little bit about mentorship, because we all know that mentorship is really important for succeeding in the academic world, especially. Can you tell us a little bit about your approach for obtaining quality mentorship and support? Do you have a network of mentors that you turn to for career and research advice? And what are your tips for trainees for strengthening one's mentorship network?
Yeah. I so I do have both sort of formal and informal mentorship networks. And I would say that my informal mentorship networks were originally more formal mentorship that now I've transitioned out of, but I still keep in touch with those mentors. So my PhD advisor, Dr. David Conroy, and my postdoc advisor, Dr. Genevieve Dunton, these are people that I'm still in touch regularly, and not just about research or academia related things, also ask them for advice in my personal life and things like that. And when my husband and I announced that we're starting to tell people that we were pregnant, one of the first people I told was my PhD advisor, Dr. Conroy. And so I think that those kinds of relationships with people are really important to continue and sustain over time. And so, like I said, I go to them for not just career advice, but also just to share things in my personal life that I know they would really enjoy hearing and things like that. And they do the same with me. And then at UNCG, they have a much more they have a lot of things in place to help to develop formal mentoring relationships. And so in our department, new faculty members are assigned two senior faculty mentors, one that serves as a primary and the other is a secondary mentor. And usually your primary mentor is within your same discipline within the field of kinesiology. And then your secondary mentor is someone from outside of that discipline. And there's also programs that are available at UNCG that I sought out to get additional mentoring. So UNCG offers faculty a summer grant writing program where you basically learn all the ins and outs and tips for writing successful grant applications. And as part of that, you select a grant writing mentor to read drafts and talk through issues with you as you're writing your grant. And so I did that summer grant writing program and had a grant writing mentor that even though that program is over now, my time has sort of elapsed in it, I still maintain a relationship with that faculty member to get sort of advice on grant writing, but also things related to research and teaching as well. And so I think it's important to sort of cultivate those mentoring relationships. And if some universities don't have those formal mentoring programs in place. So I would say that if those formal programs aren't in place, reach out to people like your department chair or other sort of faculty members. I think your department chair could be a good resource to sort of say, okay, you're looking for a mentor. These are people that I think might be a good sort of fit for you, or be willing to serve as a mentor, or reaching out to sort of broader units or organizations within your university. Also, I think too, lots of professional organizations offer the opportunity to be mentored, even if it's not a connection or something that involves regular meetings. Even just having an initial opportunity to meet and talk with someone face to face allows you to have connections or maintain that connection over email or Zoom or things like that throughout the year. And so I'm really involved in the Society of Behavioral Medicine, and I know that the student SIG or special interest group focuses on a lot of like sort of mentoring sort of opportunities for students, but then also other organizations or other SIGs or groups within the organization have content at the annual meeting where you can meet face to face with really experienced, highly regarded individuals within the field, and having that initial connection gives you the opportunity to sort of pick their brain throughout the year as well. So I would say if those more formal channels aren't in place, look for other opportunities that within your own university or professional organization to be able to develop those.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think that's all the time we have for questions today. I want to thank you again, Dr. Maher, for taking the time to speak with me and to share your experiences with NIH trainees.
No problem.